They want you to fight, to raise your voice, to defend, justify, explain to lose. They dress it up as dialogue. They say it's about understanding, about clarity, about truth. But it's a trap, and I see it now. Arguments aren't bridges, they're arenas. Not built for connection, but for conquest. The louder they speak, the more afraid they are of silence. The more they argue, the more fragile their beliefs. They don't want to know you. They want to win over you. They want to twist your truth until it sounds like theirs. But I won't play, I won't perform, because I've learned whoever needs to prove their worth has already surrendered it. The moment you feel compelled to justify, you've already lost, because justification is submission. It means you still care what they think. It means you're still on your knees, begging for approval, wrapped in the chains of herd morality. Nietzsche called it what it is: a sickness, a survival instinct of the weak, desperate to be accepted. But I am not desperate. I do not beg. I do not need to be understood. Because understanding is not a requirement for power. Presence is, and that's what I've become. A presence unshaken, untouchable, while they yell into the void. I remain still while they claw for validation. I withdraw my need for it while they chase applause. I build thrones in silence. I have left the battlefield, not in retreat, in revolution. Let them argue, let them scratch, scream, twist their tongues into knots. I am no longer there. I no longer care, because the ones who shout the loudest are always the ones afraid of what they'd hear in the quiet. And I have made peace with silence. I have made it my kingdom, because true strength does not chase the crowd, it walks alone. And the world moves to avoid its path. They wanted a fight, but I became the war, and now I don't need to speak to be heard. I don't need to respond to be felt. This is not submission. This is ascension. I will not play by rules made for the fragile. I will not bow to a game designed to keep me beneath them. I have nothing to prove, and that is what makes me unstoppable. They taught you that silence was politeness, that obedience was virtue, that approval was the prize, but I see it now. The chains weren't made of iron. They were made of applause. You wanted to be good. You wanted to be accepted. You wanted to belong. So you obeyed. You swallowed your voice. You trimmed your edges. You buried your fire just to keep them warm. They called it maturity. They called it compromise. But it was neither. It was submission, disguised, decorated, domesticated. Nietzsche called it herd morality, the code of the compliant, the silent disease of the soul. It teaches you to kneel and convinces you it's a choice. Look around, everyone's smiling, everyone's agreeing, everyone's pretending, because in the herd, truth is dangerous, conviction is threat, authenticity is exiles. They trade themselves piece by piece for praise, for acceptance, for the illusion of peace. But that peace is poison. It softens your spine, it silences your instincts, it turns warriors into workers, and kings into clowns. You've felt it, haven't you? The moment you bite your tongue, the moment you nod along, the moment you feel your fire flicker because you didn't want to disturb the room, that's not respect, that's fear. And fear is a cage. They trained you to speak gently, to soften your truth, to smile when you're bleeding, to remain quiet. Not out of power, but because you're terrified of being misunderstood. But I don't fear misunderstanding. I expect it, because I was not made to fit. I was made to rise, and I have severed the chain. I no longer explain. I no longer ask permission. I no longer wait for the world to be ready for my truth. My strength is not in how well I conform. It is in how deeply I refuse to. They tell you to be liked. I tell you to be unignorable. They tell you to stay soft. I tell you softness is a lie when it costs you your soul. You don't need their applause. You don't need their agreement. You don't need their acceptance. You need your fire back. You need to walk into the world without flinching, without apologizing, without begging to be understood. Because true power isn't in convincing anyone. It's in not needing to. And when they ask, "Why are you so cold? Why don't you play along? Why don't you speak like us?" you smile, because now, you know, they're still trapped in the herd, still grazing, still obeying, still living for the next round of applause. But you have stepped out of the circle. You have stepped into yourself, and in that silence, you have found your roar. They expect noise, they expect rage, retaliation, rebuttal, because they live in a world where reaction is the only language they know. But I don't speak that language anymore. I speak silence, and silence, when wielded by someone who understands its power, is an invisible blade, precise, clean, and lethal. You see, most people believe silence is surrender, that to say nothing means you've lost. But let me tell you what they never understood. Silence is not absence, it's presence. Unshaken, unbothered, unbreakable, the moment you don't respond. They unravel, they scramble to fill the void. Their words turn desperate, their smiles twitch, their confidence cracks, because silence makes them feel seen, truly seen, without masks, without layers, without the shield of noise it forces them to hear. The sound they fear, most the sound of their own weakness echoing back at them. That's why they react. That's why they shout. That's why they accuse, because silence isn't passive. It's confrontation without contact. It's judgment without words. It's a mirror, and most people can't stand the reflection. They call you arrogant when you don't explain, cold when you don't justify, cruel when you don't comfort their insecurities. But don't let their noise fool you. They're not angry because you're silent. They're terrified. Terrified that you don't need them. Terrified that you won't play their game. Terrified that you know something they don't, how to remain calm when the rest of the world burns. Because silence is not emptiness, it is a locked vault, and they go mad trying to pick it open. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you've seen. They don't know when or if you'll strike, and that uncertainty, that is your power. While they scream for control, you stand still while they drown in emotion. You breathe steady while they bleed words, hoping one will land. You watch and wait and know they will make mistakes. They will reveal everything, trying to pull something from you. And you give them nothing, because that's what rattles them, not your attack, but your refusal to be provoked. Not your reply, but your restraint. I don't react to win. I withhold to dominate. My silence is not peace. It is a storm behind closed lips. It is tension stretched to its breaking point. It is a loaded chamber, finger resting gently on the trigger, waiting for the moment when one word can do what 1,000 once couldn't speak. Let them speak. Let them rage. Let them try to read you. They will fail, and in their failure, they will fall, because the one who doesn't need to respond, the one who listens like a hunter, the one who waits, the one who watches, that is the one they should fear. That is who I've become. And now, I don't react to the world. I let the world react to me. They speak of power as noise, as volume, as dominance wrapped in sound. But power, true power, doesn't roar. It watches, it waits, it calculates. Power doesn't announce itself. It arrives in silence, stands behind locked eyes, and breathes without needing permission. They fear what they can't predict. They fear what doesn't move like them, speak like them, break like them. And that's why they fear me, because I don't flinch, I don't explain, I don't perform for their comfort. They call me cold, distant, heartless, but the truth is they don't know what I am and what they don't understand. They label what they can't define. They demonize. Let them. Their fear feeds me, you see. I became something else, something they don't have a word for. I became the Ubermensch, not in theory and blood. Silence and precision. I am not here to argue. I do not plead. I do not seek their praise. I have risen above that currency. While they posture, I prepare. While they react, I record. While they unravel in front of me, I stitch their weaknesses together like blueprints. I move when I choose. I speak when the silence has done its work. And when I do, it's not to win, it's to end every word. I don't say is a knife I don't yet throw. Every reaction I withhold is a trap I've already set. They call me a predator. They're not wrong, but not the kind that chases. I am the kind that waits, and when I strike, it is not to wound, it is to erase. Understand this. Stillness is not passivity, it's patience. And patience is lethal. When backed by intent, I do not seek balance. I tilt the ground beneath them, without raising a voice, without lifting a hand. They look into my silence, and they see themselves unraveling. They feel their own doubts echo in the space I leave behind, and they panic because I refuse to be read. They expect emotion, they expect engagement, they expect something, but I give them nothing, and nothing is unbearable. They beg for noise because my silence makes their lies louder, because my stillness makes their performance collapse. I am not detached, I am watching every twitch, every word, every fracture in their mask, and when the moment comes, when their defenses are crumbling under the weight of their own pretending, I deliver the blow, not with rage, not with chaos, but with the calm precision of someone who no longer hopes to be understood. I do not need to prove my strength. My absence of reaction proves it for me. I do not convince, I command, and when I speak, if I speak, it is the final nail, the definitive silence between life and legacy. Let them call me inhuman. Let them call me ruthless. Let them call me whatever gives them comfort, but deep down, they know there is no name for what I've become, only consequences, because I do not exist to soothe their insecurities. I exist to remind them that some beings do not seek to be understood. Some beings simply are, and I am unshaken, unreadable, unstoppable, the predator they never saw coming, and now can never escape. They taught you to stay quiet, told you it was noble, told you it was wise, that silence meant strength, but they lied, because not all silence is power. Some silence is submission dressed as virtue. Some silence is fear wearing the mask of peace, and you've called it maturity. You've called it emotional control. You've told yourself it's not worth it to fight, but tell me, when you stayed quiet, was it because you were in control? Or because you were afraid of losing something you never truly had? They say pick your battles, but what if every time you walked away, you left a piece of yourself behind? Every unspoken truth, every swallowed scream, every moment you bit your tongue when your soul wanted to roar, it didn't make you stronger. It made you smaller, and they noticed. Oh, they noticed. Manipulators don't need words. They feed on your silence. They grow in the absence of your resistance. They measure your silence not as strength, but as surrender, because silence, when rooted in fear, is not calm. It's a coffin. Look closely. That piece you're protecting, is it yours? Or did someone convince you to protect their comfort at the cost of your fire? They want you polite, predictable, peaceful, because predictable people are easy to control, and peaceful people don't push back. But now, it's time to turn that silence into something else. Not avoidance, not retreat, but strategy, because silence should never be a shield to hide behind. It should be a sword drawn when the world least expects it. You've mistaken suppression for discipline. You've confused obedience with strength, but I'm telling you now, you have not been calm. You have been conquered until now. From this moment on, you speak when it's lethal. You act when it's final. You move not because they want you to, but because you decide it's time. Let them fear your silence, but only when it belongs to you, only when it's earned, only when it's deliberate, because silence without purpose is captivity, but silence with intention is war. You are not here to please. You are not here to be passive. You are not here to dim your light just to let their egos breathe. So, ask yourself, are you being calm or are you being erased? You don't owe them your stillness. You owe yourself your voice, your power, your presence. Let every pause become a choice. Let every word withheld be a weapon sharpened. This is no longer about peace. It's about position. It's about power. It's about taking back everything your silence let them steal. No more apologizing for your fire. No more hiding behind quiet, because now your silence has teeth, and it only bites when you want it to. They think silence is weakness, that the quiet ones are meek, that stillness means surrender, but they've never seen silence used like this. Then never felt it cut. They've never watched it wound. They don't know that silence, when wielded with precision, is not absence, it is dominance. Today, I will show you the 4 weapons of silent power, each forged in self-mastery, each designed to destroy without a sound weapon. 1. Silence in the moment of emotional pressure. When they press you, poke you, mock you, challenge your very being. They expect the reaction. They crave the spark because your reaction is their proof that they still control the board. But what happens when you don't respond? When you offer nothing but still eyes and a frozen heartbeat? They panic because your silence in the storm makes them question the storm itself. Hold your words, grip your breath, let your stillness scream louder than their chaos, because silence at the peak of pressure is not avoidance. It is power concentrated, weaponized, unleashed without motion. Weapon 2. Observation. Let them speak. Let them stumble through words. Let them reveal themselves while you collect every twitch, every fracture. Silence is not passive. It's surveillance while they try to prove. You decode while they project strength. You spot insecurity. You see the lies between syllables, the doubt beneath the pride, and you store it patiently, meticulously. Because when you strike, you will strike exactly where it hurts, not blindly, not emotionally, but with sniper precision. Observation is a scalpel, and silence is how you sharpen the blade. Weapon 3. The tension of pause is a pause is not empty. A pause is pressure. It is the moment the air thickens, the instant the mind spirals in a world addicted to instant noise. Your pause is an anomaly, a disruption, a question they weren't ready for. They fill the void with fear, with assumptions, with desperation, and in that space, they reveal themselves. They break their own armor just to escape the silence you command. Master the pause. Let it stretch, let it burn, let them tremble beneath its weight, because a well-timed pause can be more brutal than the loudest war cry. Weapon 4. Unpredictability. When you master silence, you become unreadable. You become chaos wrapped in calm. They never know if your silence is peace or preparation, forgiveness or fury, and that unsettles them, because people fear what they cannot predict. You invert the power dynamic. Now they adjust to you. Now they speak carefully, move cautiously, second guess their every step because they can't read the script anymore. Your restraint becomes threat. Your calm becomes command. You become the storm they didn't see coming, and your silence becomes the thunder they never expected to hear. These are your weapons, not fists, not screams, not the desperate need to be heard, but silence poised, strategic, unshakable. Let them speak first. Let them rush forward. Let them drown in their noise. You'll wait, and when the time is right, you won't need to raise your voice, because by then, your silence will have already won the war. They used to beg to be heard. They raised their voices, shouted into voids, wrote manifestos in blood and tears, but no one listened, not truly, because the world isn't built to hear the broken, it only trembles. For those who commanded in silence, I no longer speak to convince. I no longer argue to win, because truth, real truth, does not require applause. The strongest voice is the one that says nothing and yet shakes the ground beneath their feet. I have no desire to be understood. Understanding is for the herd, the crowd, the obedient. Let them chase acceptance. Let them mold themselves into shapes that fit in cages. I won't. They asked me to explain myself. I refused. They asked me to prove I was right. I refused. Because needing to be right is the cry of someone still afraid of being wrong. I don't need their validation, their agreement, their sympathy. I need only one thing: my presence. I stand, I breathe. And in that breath is a kingdom. You want to be strong? Then kill your need to speak. Let your silence say everything. Let it tower, let it loom, let it disturb those who thought they had you figured out, because silence, when mastered, is not retreat. It is revolution. It is the final transformation. It is the fire that burns without smoke. Every word you don't say becomes a wall. Every explanation you bury becomes a sword. Every reaction you resist becomes a crown. This is not surrender. This is sovereignty. Do not explain. Do not ask. Do not wait. Be still like the eye of a storm. Be still like the shadow before the strike. Be still until your silence is mistaken for peace and becomes their undoing. Because the final voice, the ultimate voice, is the one that doesn't scream. It doesn't whisper, it doesn't plead, it simply is, and those who hear it never forget it. So I ask you, are you ready? Are you ready to stop begging to be heard? To stop defending your soul to those who could never carry its weight? Are you ready to become the one whose presence says what 1,000 words never could? Then kill the noise inside you. Kill the urge to prove. Kill the hunger to be understood, and rise in silence. Rise in stillness, rise in sovereignty, because you are not here to be heard, you are here to be felt. And that is the voice that will echo long after the silence remains. Let it echo. Let them fear it. Let them fall in silence. This is end of the story. Please like this video and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.